Okay.
So I think we might just kick off in the interest of time there, and if anyone else joins, they can just catch up in any case, and I'll be sending this recording out to all registered attendees as well, so they'll have that recording anyway.
Okay.
So thanks everyone for joining. You're all very welcome today to our webinar on postgraduate study in the School of Law here at UL. I'm just going to just say a few points just before we start. The session will be recorded just for all attendees here. And we'll start with a presentation, an overview of the postgraduate programmes within the School of Law at UL. Then we'll have a discussion with Damien, who's a graduate of the LLM General Programme. And then we'll finish off with a Q&A session if anyone has any questions at the end. And I'll be sending, as I've mentioned there, a follow-up email to all students with a recording of this webinar and links to all our postgraduate programs as well. So I'll just kick off there. I'll just share my screen. Hopefully you'll all be able to see it. I'll just put that into presenter mode there. Can you all see that, hopefully?
Yep.
Great. So just why study law at the University of Limerick? Some of you are current students here already in our undergraduate programs, but for anyone who isn't, you really are studying in a student-centered learning environment where you have a great rapport with your lecturers and a lot of excellent resources to hand, some of which are listed there, such as the Moot Courtroom, the Appellate Court, and the New Law Library. And of course, the library is a fantastic resource for all our students, but in particular our law students as well. You also learn from internationally recognised law experts and guest lecturers, and we've quite a few visiting practitioners that come in to speak to students, as well as those working in legal research as well. So you get a really good broad insight into different areas of the law also. And the graduate outcomes coming out of the postgraduate programs in particular, there's an exceptionally high employment rate coming out of those programs as well, which is very positive benefit of doing the programs, and strong international law links with partner universities across the globe as well. So that's a general overview, I suppose, of the School of Law at UL. Just following on from that, the facilities that you have available, as I've mentioned, and a lot of our own students will be very familiar with this, but just to state this in any case, we've a state-of-the-art law library opened in 2018, which is part of a fantastic facility in the Glucksman Library, and where we have a lot of library staff who are very supportive of students at all levels. And I have to say they're an excellent resource, as well as apart from the building, in that they're very helpful to students and helping them with any requests or queries they may have around any resources that they may need. As I've mentioned previously, we have the 2 purpose-built moot courts, which help students to develop lawyering skills during their time here in UL studying with us. And we have over 340,000 legal books and 270,000 electronic journals also. And you can see some of the pictures there highlighting the various excellent facilities, modern facilities we have in the Glucksman Library, also down at the bottom of the slide there. Just to give an overview of the postgraduate programs within the School of Law, we have 4 postgraduate programs on offer: the LLM MA Human Rights and Criminal Justice Programme, the LLM International Commercial Law, the LLM Law General, and the LLB Graduate Entry, which is a full-time only option and a 2-year programme. So all the LLM programs are offered on a 1-year full-time basis or a 2-year part-time basis. And just to note, for the LLM MA Human Rights and Criminal Justice, there is an online option. The difference between that and the on-campus option is that there is more limited module choice on that program. So just to note that as well. And further details on all these programs can be accessed at ul.ie/GPS. If you go to the Arts and Humanities section of that page, you will find all the programs listed there. So just to elaborate on the postgraduate programs, there is a wide range of subjects and electives that students can pursue as part of those programs. the fees are quite competitive in comparison to other universities in Ireland. We compare quite favourably in terms of cost and fees. And also we do have scholarships available. The Evershed Sutherland Scholarship is available, which is a partial scholarship of fees awarded to the student that has received the highest grade on entry to the LLM programmes. The LLB fees are listed there, but just to note, year two is subject to change. So just on the LLM modules on offer, you can see the different modules on offer. All LLM students will do legal research methods modules and also dissertation research methodology modules as well. And of course, they'll do a dissertation in the summer semester of either the year two of the part-time program or in the summer semester of the 1 year full-time program. But just to note the modules on offer, and in particular for the LLM Law General, there's quite a wide variety of modules on offer in different areas of the law. I suppose with the other two programs, it is really focused on the scope of the program. As you can see there, the title of some of the modules will obviously indicate that in terms of, for international commercial law, really be focused on labour law, business transactions, IP law, that sort of thing. And for the Human Rights and Criminal Justice program, it would really be focused on criminal justice processes, sentencing, hate crime, penology, victimology, constitutional law, and so forth. So they really do follow the scope of the program. Programs, but the LLM Law General would be slightly different in that there is quite a wide variety of choice within that program as well. And that's just the spring elective modules on offer. And as you can see, the wide variety of choice there as well also. Just to give an overview on the LLB graduate entry program, it's a 2-year full-time program. It's effectively a 4-year law degree in 2 years, and you have to have a level 8 undergraduate degree to gain entry onto the program. Just to know for the BA Criminal Justice students, they enter onto year 2 directly of the program as they've some of the modules covered in year 1, so they do that a degree in 1 year rather than 2, but it's only open to our BA Criminal Justice students at UL. So just on the entry requirements for the programs, it is quite competitive and there are limited places. I suppose the threshold is a second-class honours degree in an undergraduate law degree, where 50% of your degree was made up of a legal component. The only exception to this would be the MA in Human Rights and Criminal Justice program. You can gain entry onto that version of the program, not the LLM version, but you will come out with an MA in Human Rights and Criminal Justice. And the in exceptional circumstances, an applicant who can't satisfy the undergraduate requirement may be accepted on the basis of relevant professional experience, but that would be on a case-by-case basis and would be a decision made by the course director. So if there's anyone on the call that has any queries around that, I would contact the course director directly to see whether that route would be applicable to yourself or not. And then of course there's English language requirements. So applicants whose first language is not English must provide evidence of English language qualifications. So just to note that. And all the details for all these entry requirements are on all the course web pages. So you'll find further detail there. It's just to highlight some of the key points to note there also. So graduate opportunities and where have people gone post-graduation? I suppose there's some well-worn career pathways coming out of the LLM programs. Some students will pursue FE1s and King's Inns exams and go down that route. Students have also pursued further study, PhD study, and have pursued academic careers. We've had students that have gone into the banking and financial services sector, mainly out of the International Commercial Law Programme, private industry also, and government and European institutions, whether that be national government or working in EU institutional hubs, whether that be the European Council, Commission, Parliament, and so forth. NGOs, both national and international, policing, and advocates for human rights and criminal justice theory in practice. And finally, just to give an outline of how our students have found the programme, our graduates of the various programmes, you can see that there's some really positive quotes there coming out of the LLM programmes in particular, where they've really expanded their thoughts and ideas, have developed a real passion for their learning, which they may not have had at an undergraduate level or throughout their formal education. And they've also developed key career skills and knowledge for a successful career post-graduation. So that's just a very quick overview of the programs overall. I'm going to move on to speak with Damien, who's kindly joined us. He's an LLM general graduate, and he's kindly given up his time here to speak to us about his experience of the program and how he found life post-graduation as well. So thank you for joining us, Damien. Can I just ask you to tell us a bit about your background before you decided to do the LLM program, firstly?
Yes, thank you for having me. I practice law in England and Wales. I graduated through Cardiff University, having studied here in Ireland. When I was training in those days, there was very few places that you could do an LLB. So some of us were required to go abroad. So I went abroad, and I qualified as a solicitor in 2000 and practiced family law in England and Wales. Became a partner of my own firm and ran my own firm, and was a solicitor and advocate and qualified as an arbitrator. So a mixed career background, but primarily practicing in family law for the courts as well.
Very good. So why did you choose to do masters at UL? And like you've very experienced background, and what was the attraction of UL for yourself? What was the deciding factor really in coming here?
Well, there was some personal circumstances which meant that for health reasons I had to leave. Well, I chose to move on from practice because it can be quite stressful. So I was in a situation where I thought to myself, well, I'm not giving up on the law because I really, really enjoyed the law. And I had been looking at other courses, and I noted that there was a family module on the general LLM, which took my fancy. It was an opportunity to expand in more detail my understanding and knowledge of family law, particularly from an Irish perspective, because prior to that, of course, I'd only been practicing in England and Wales. And when you have a constitution in between, it does tend to change things. So I was really intrigued from that perspective, which is why I chose Limerick. And then, of course, I thought I'd have a visit to campus. I'd never been here before, and I was flabbergasted by the campus. It's fantastic campus. So that and the family module were my deciding factors. So yeah, you could put some shiny buildings up, and I was attracted.
I know, I have to say, when I had it in my presentation, but I even find the library amazing, and I'm not a current student. I'm staff here, but it is a fabulous resource for anyone to have, and it's a fabulous learning environment actually as well.
Yes,
so you kind of touched
absolutely.
on that, I suppose, with the campus. But how did you find returning to education? And I suppose the School of Law is one thing I can say about the School of Law is it is very student centred and student focused. But did you find that you were able to access support either through your lecturers or through the various support services, whether that be the library? How did you find that support's available to students, I suppose?
Well, remember when I was a student in my undergraduate days, we used things called books. And so, although while everything was beginning to become digitalized, I did question whether or not I'd be able to transition to a purely screen-based learning process. Now, obviously, I did pick up the odd book and went into the library and used it quite extensively. But the services, no, particularly the library, it's fantastic. I have access to so much information, and not only that, I tend to, now that I'm doing a PhD, I do interlibrary loans as well, and I can get books from anywhere around the country, from other countries. I can get documents which you cannot access, but the library can access for you. So I've worked with the library. They've been really, really helpful. And the department, you come in here, nobody looks at you and says, "Oh gosh," you know, there's no judgment. We had, all age groups on the course from all different backgrounds, and it makes for a much, much more interesting module course. Particularly, we had some people from international students, and their stories when we were talking and we were looking at elements of international human rights, for example, they were talking from a legal perspective of situations that are affecting their country. And I had never even thought to look at issues like this. So it really expanding and opened up your mind to beyond where I was focusing, which was Ireland, England, and Wales, and nothing beyond that. So coming here to do the human rights masters, I began to see things from a much wider perspective in terms of international law, which is why now actually I teach the master's module for European Convention on Human Rights, and it's an area of law that I've always done, but I never bedded into it because with family law, human rights runs all the way through it. But when you get into dealing with human rights, it's a really fascinating subject. So I got a great opportunity there, and yeah, I loved it. To be perfectly honest, it was really, really enjoyable.
Yeah, and you stayed on, so it's kind of testament to that. I think that love of learning and that that really delving into an area and a dissertation and a subject that you're really passionate about as well, which is great. So do you think there's anything, you've obviously been through, formal study in other institutions. Do you think there's anything that makes UL unique, or anything that you've noticed yourself in comparison to other universities that you may have gone to during your academic journey?
Well, there's a number of things that jump to mind. We have a really good postgraduate community, and we also it's a transitional thing. When you're an undergraduate and then you become a postgraduate, even in the back of your head, you're questioning whether or not you're able to do it, etc. We all suffer it. We all go through it. So and it stays with you for a little bit. But there's nothing. When you get into the course, you're here. You're entitled to be here, and everyone treats you with the same respect. So there's a really good support for postgraduates here. You have access to the lecturers, and it's a very informal approach that we have. If somebody wants to speak to me, you go into the classroom. The teaching is different. It's very intimate to a degree in terms of the way it's taught. It's a discussion more than a lecture. We have the postgraduate union here, which is something that other universities don't have. The library facilities, fantastic. And generally there's lots of things to be doing. So particularly if you're, like international students coming here for the first time, it can be quite a lonely place. It was for me, but it didn't take long to bed in. The good thing about having it all on campus, because my university was within Cardiff City and it was spread out. The on-campus situation is so much better. It's just got a better feel for it. And I came at the end of COVID, and it was beginning to improve. Now there's just bodies everywhere, and it's a great buzz on campus as well. But I have to say, learning here, I wouldn't have stayed on if I didn't enjoy it. Put it that way. I was encouraged to pursue my PhD by my peers here, and also, you know, the lecturers here, um, they thought it was a very good piece. I didn't have confidence in it. That was just me. And they said no. So, you know, it's been really, really good in terms of confidence building as well. Because when you change from one career, where I was a solicitor, which is fine, into sort of academia, it can be quite daunting. But I have to say it's been a smooth journey so far.
That's great, and
So yeah,
yeah, it's great to see that. I suppose that input and that collaboration, and you kind of touched on that when you're saying at the postgraduate level, it is more of a discussion. I know the undergraduate modules can be bigger and it can be more kind of lecture, tutorial, but I think with the postgrad modules, it tends to be that bit more collaborative maybe, and
yeah,
and that sort of thing. So that probably is the main difference when you go up the go on in your academic journey really. But it's great to hear you've had such a positive experience with such positivity around your own research topic and pursuing it further and everything, 'cause sometimes it does take that external person to
yeah,
kind of point out things that you wouldn't necessarily consider yourself. So it's really, really
yeah.
positive actually. So just to ask specifically about your program, what did you enjoy most about the program? Or was there any elements that you really, but before you started you wouldn't have considered, but now during the course of your studies you found really interesting and
Yeah.
you know.
Well, the the reason why I took general was partly because of the family module, but I hadn't any. I didn't want to do something too prescriptive. I wanted to explore the law generally. Um, so I was given the opportunity to study all of the areas. And if I wanted to do some commercial work, then I would have. But not my cup of tea, commercial. I never really touched on it in all my professional life, and I'd no real. But human rights, I saw the modules, and I thought, knowing I knew some aspects of because I needed it in practice. But I never really, as I said, got into it and loved it. Really got into it. I had a piece published from one of my modules in a Cambridge journal, and you know that was the icing on the cake. But it came from it's just my skills that I had acquired over the years, I didn't realize I had, but certainly human rights really took my fancy. And then I sort of fell into criminology elements, which I'd done at undergraduate level. I really liked it. And I was doing peniology and criminology, well, not criminology so much, but peniology. And yeah, that sort of piqued my interest as well. And yeah, it was very, very interesting. I did some policing stuff as well, because the way I was looking at it, the way I still want to go forward, and part of my PhD is to design a new work for the future, if you like.
Mm,
And all these areas fitted in with that to a large extent on the periphery, but they certainly, and I had such a selection, and that was very important to me because I wanted to look at subjects that piqued my interest, not because I had to do them. And that you saw the big choices there with both semesters, and it really is to your benefit. I mean, I work in the writing centre now because that's another facility we have here, and I'd never heard of a writing centre, and it's brilliant. It really helps you with your writing, and not necessarily from what the content is. We can't put the content in for you or help you with the content, but learning how to write, because I acquired the skill when I was practicing, but I didn't quite understand all the nitty gritty bits of what writing was about, and I've learned so much from that, and I've just marked 72 papers of students who are preparing for their dissertation. But the whole idea is just to help students and identify where they might have some weaknesses in their writing, because writing is quite important when you get to the next level of learning. And you have to be able to make a good argument and show good research. So I enjoy sharing those skills with other students as well.
And it also feeds into whether you decide to go into academia or into other areas, it would feed into your, I suppose the professional side of that legal
Yeah,
career pathway, so it covers both
absolutely.
really, doesn't it? So,
Yeah.
um, and I suppose just you've kind of touched on it already, really, but is there any transformative elements of the program that you just found were totally different and totally transformed your way of thinking during the course of the LLM program? Obviously, you pursued PhD study and delved further, but was there anything really transformative in that time that you wouldn't have necessarily had in your professional life, or anything that you kind of picked up really from the LLM?
Well, professionally, when you go down the professional route, you you start to veer off into different set of skills completely. You have all the knowledge that you've acquired during your degree undergraduate, but then you start to use it in a different way. So practical. So somebody comes in and says, I've got a situation, what can I do? And it's like having a problem question every day, but you get used to it, so it's not a problem. But I always wanted to go be more of an advocate, i.e., become a barrister, because I enjoyed the advocacy element. But when you have that opportunity, like you do on a master's course, which I never had, well, I not never had, but I didn't get as much of an opportunity as a solicitor, was the ability to look deep into subjects. And, I found a few things which, I wrote about, which people went, oh, and even I went, oh. I presented papers at conferences. I just, the ability to be able to hone in on something and contribute to it. Because one thing that I find in coming from England and Wales to Ireland is that in England and Wales, it's been practiced for years over there, before Ireland became independent, and they have so much more research over there. Here, we don't have as much research. So being able to contribute and being able to learn those skills and how to contribute, which I developed only from having done the masters, is fantastic. I'm continuing to drive I see things that I want to write about and I want to highlight. I'm working with people, two of whom have just been appointed High Court judges. So I'm, the network of people that you meet from a different perspective of looking at the law, that's really, really, I never thought I'd be at this age this excited still about studying the subject, but I am.
And it's great to have that curiosity and that level. It's just fabulous, really, when you think about all the years you've spent in the profession, and even
Yeah,
still having that
that
insight and,
comes
and
from the
finding new
environment.
things.
That,
Yeah,
that comes from your environment as well. And,
yeah,
I get that
yeah,
here at the university. I have a great bunch of people who work alongside me who are equally doing PhD, and we're all sharing our stories. And
yeah,
it's great. So yeah, I just, you know, uh, I'm so lucky
yeah.
to have found this, later on in my career.
That's great, and yeah, it's fabulous, and I just think, as we have in our tagline for our postgraduate marketing, I suppose, is stay curious, but it is something that I think everyone should try to do, is to retain that
Yeah.
curiosity and that passion for
And
learning and
that
stuff. Mm.
that reminds me, when I was a trainee solicitor, I had one of the partners was my a training partner, and he went on to become a judge himself. And he said to me, Damien, the day you stop learning is the day you give it up. And I have no intention of giving it up. So I'll continue learning. And that's the other thing. Never close my mind off to anything. And, it just feeds that desire to move it along and move it along and move it along and want to contribute. It's all about contribution, uh, not about changing. All you do is you make suggestions and to contribute to the legal arguments. So, and the kind of work that you do at this level, master's level and beyond, people start to listen to what you have to say. And, if you've got something to say, then, it's a great opportunity to learn the skills, how to say it and do it. And the masters has certainly taught me that.
Very good. Yeah, God, it's so positive. It's great listening to you. Actually, it's so interesting. But just to close, what advice would you give to anyone thinking of doing a postgrad course in law, and any advice on the application process, and even just general tips you would have found during the course of your studies about how they would approach it?
The whole transition is different. You won't feel it physically or mentally, don't worry, something like that. But your focus will be more on the research. You are now going to look behind what you've been taught and dig deeper. When I say dig deeper, you'll read other people's input into very specific areas. So, for example, I'm getting my students to write about a particular thing that interests them at the European Convention, and they come to me with subjects this wide. And this is where you go to this. You really you narrow down and you look at it with more interest. You look at dissenting judgments. You look at arguments put forward. You look at previous cases. You see where there's differences, and you're able to develop skills. So what you will be doing is a change in your perspective on how you look at the law, and that will take you, really far, which I didn't have when I was in practice. So having those skills, if you go in to say become a barrister or a solicitor or wherever you may be, they will stand you in really good stead, because when you're making an argument in a courtroom, you have to have that knowledge. You have to be able to dig deep, because the judge and the other side will throw things at you, and you should always be prepared. I'm learning it after the event, so to speak. In terms of the process, I found it fairly easy. The university were very supportive, and when I started, everybody was very supportive as well, a very relaxed atmosphere, and it's not something you should fear. I think it's an exciting progression from your LLB. I think the LLB is much harder than the masters, to be perfectly honest, because the way you do things is completely different, and it's much more enjoyable. So I would highly encourage people to take that step if that's what they want to do, because it will
Yeah, and
benefit you.
I think the LLBs are a great springboard, obviously, but yeah, I totally get what you're saying around that. It's probably harder to get to grips with that initial foundation, but then once you have that,
Yeah,
it's great to
yeah,
have that
on
springboard,
you.
that
Yeah,
knowledge. Yeah. So I
yeah,
think we'll open the floor up to questions there. Thank you so much, Damien, for your time. I really appreciate you coming on the
no
call
problem.
and giving your insights. It's been fascinating to chat with you. I just want to see if there's any questions coming in. For the audience here, feel free to pop any questions into the chat there. We might give it a couple of minutes. Whilst you're writing in your questions, just a note as well, we have an open day on campus here this evening from 3 to 6 in the library, the foyer of the library, so just on the way to the cafe. For any UL students, current fourth year students on the call here, you're more than welcome to pop in. I'll be there from 3 to 6, a little bit before actually, if you want to come a bit before also. Officially it's 3 to 6 is the timing, so feel free to pop down if you have any questions. If you don't want to ask here, you can also contact me via email as well if you wish to. I don't see any questions unless there's any last minute questions. Obviously, Damien, you were very comprehensive in your overview, so you've covered everything, I think. So they obviously don't have any burning questions at the moment. But if there is any other questions, feel free to email me. I emailed you all there this morning ahead of the webinar, so you should have my email, but I will be following up after this call with the recording and further details as well on scholarships and links to the course web pages. So thanks very much, everyone, and thanks to everyone for coming today. I really appreciate you taking the time to come to this webinar also, and to Damien for his insights, which were really valuable also. So I think we'll wrap up there. I don't see any questions coming through. So thanks everyone for joining, and I hope you have a great day, and feel free to pop into the open day later also. All right, thanks guys.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.